Howdy y'all, JT Johnson here, rolltowound.com. In today's tournament battle report, I'll be taking a Soulblight Gravelords army to a 3-round one-day tournament. So, let's see how they roll. Alright, so after Hammerfest, where I played Archeon Tzeentch, and the last couple of months I've really been focused on Tzeentch, in preparation for the November tournament in Austin, which will be the GW sponsored tournament, I wanted to play a different Grand Alliance. If I was being smart, I would play Tzeentch Archeon again. Hands down, I got a good list, strong list, and unless an FAQ comes out in the next month that just like nerfs it, I could go win 3 games. I'm pretty confident in. Now, part of the master season here in Texas is we're going to have 4 GTs to go to, and you can only get your point, your GT points from those 4. Now, I've made a personal challenge because I like to do these personal challenge to take a different Grand Alliance for each one of those. So I've already done Chaos. This one I'll be running Death. Now, if you remember back in my battle report from Dallas earlier this year, I ran a Nagash Soulblight list, and I really enjoyed it. And I honestly really thought about doing that again because I think Nagash and Soulblight is not. It's decently strong, but it's really fun too. I really like the play style. I love just the debuff spam that he can put out. And yeah, the magic missile, that's fine, whatever. But I just love him going and just totally nerfing something that it can't even, basically do anything. I just love that. However, I decided, hey, let me go a different direction. Let's try some stuff out. So I started constructing a new list, and I'm working through the ups and downs to it right now to see if this is what I'm going to run at the GT in Austin, or if I just scrap the whole thing and go back to Nagash. So we're going to go into the list right now, and we're going to check that out. Also, before I get too much further, remember that all the lists will be in a link in the description to the blog post. I'll have the winning list for the tournament. I'll have all my opponents' list and my list as well. You'll also see the round pairings and things like that. So let's check out the list.
All right, so here's the list. I'm going to go over. Usually when I do these recordings, it is before the tournament, but because of the scheduling, this is actually after the tournament. So I'll go over the thoughts about what I plan on, how I plan to use them, and what I thought they would do. And then after the tournament battle report, we'll look at what they actually did. So we're starting out with Belladama. And we're running Vicros. Prize Sorcery is the battle tactic, and that was probably the biggest decision I had to make. With her and having the 10 wolves plus 5 extra because of the artifact, the command trait, Kin of the Wolf, that'll give her a ton of extra wounds to shrug to, so it made me feel better of her survivability. She's basically there for her spell casting, and hopefully to lock some shooting down, lock units down with Lichen Curse, but also the exploding 6s really help. So if we get that spell off and she's next to the Grave Guard, they're going to get exploding 6s to hit, which is not quite as good as rerolling 1s, but still pretty good. Next to Belladonna, we have a Necromancer. Fading Vigor, taking him for Van Hel's all day. Got the Arcane Tome, so he's got an extra cast, so a little bit more versatility. The other thing bad about a Necromancer and a Vicros army is you're not getting the reroll casting for them, but it is still nice. They have good spell selection. Next, we have the Vampire Lord. Taking the Vampire Lord pretty much to give you an extra hero. And the casting is nice, but I can put pinions on her. She can run out and grab an objective if need be. But it's really for the command trait, for the extra attack characteristic in the combat phase for any summonable unit. That obviously would want to go on the Grave Guard every time. But, there is times you can put it on the wolves or the zombies, just depending on what's engaged. One of the best command traits, in my opinion, in the book. It's very simple. It's just, hey, extra attack. Next we have the Giant, which I'm building a zombie giant here. Brought that in because I like the idea of, number one, something that can just function on its own independently. 35 wounds at a 4-up save. It can go toe-to-toe with other giants. It can go toe-to-toe with big monsters. And it has a shooting attack with a rock, which isn't great, but you can pick off, backline heroes. You can do things like that, which is pretty good. And really just a big distraction piece, and I think it looks cool with the rest of the army. Big giant zombie walking along with everybody. All right, we're getting into the units. We have vampire bats or fell bats. Sorry, fell bats, and these are old metal ones. And I just want to try them out because 75 points, you have something that's super fast. It can go into the grave, but it's really there just to, I've learned playing with Tzeentch that screamers, having a couple screamers in your list is super versatile. And these guys will play the same role. They can screen something, they can go grab a point early, they can sort of skate around the side and then hit a back objective of an opponent. They're just there to be quick and fill up space on the board. They can also, you can put them down, they're cheap, and you can sort of fill them behind you if you're worried about deep striking. And so there's a lot of uses for a 75 point unit. Alright, so for the battle line, we've got 2 units of zombies. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to use them for mostly screening. That is what I see their use is. You can put them in the grave depending on maps and everything, but they're really there just to screen out everything and allow somebody gets an alpha strike on my grave guard. The grave guard might melt, so it's good to have just an extra wall up. The dire wolves are 2 reasons they're there. They can screen, but really it's just be close to Belladonna and the Necromancer so they can shrug wounds until we get the other 5 wolves out. And then depending on the game and how stuff looks, those 5 wolves can go out and do things, and these can still sit with Belladonna or vice versa. But they're really just there to be a wound pool for her, since we're taking prize sorcery, and my 3 casters are kind of squishy without that shrug. The other thing is that they are pretty quick and they do take up a lot of space, so there are some good things to have them there. And then finally 2 units of Grave Guard, and I won't bore you with all the math hammer about how much damage the Grave Guard with great weapons do. They are super awesome, and this army is built around them going out and destroying things. And I'll flash some numbers up. So like I said, I'll have some numbers up for these Grave Guards and what actually Grave Guards with great weapons can do, especially buffs. And I basically got 4 different ways to buff them in this army. They're Vicros, so if they're within bubble, they'll get a +1 to wound, which really helps the great weapons. We have an extra attack from the Vampire Lord. Van Hells can be put on them from the Necromancer. And finally, you've got Belladonna with her exploding 6s. If you get all of those layered up, there's really not much in the game that should be living through that if you roll correctly. If everybody rolls correctly, they're doing some insane amount of wounds, even to 2-up armor saves. So there you have the list, and we're going to try this out.
Okay, before we get into game 1, I want to go over some of those numbers for the Grave Guard I was talking about. Like, I will have some timestamps in the description, so you can in the comments, so you can go ahead and skip this if you're not interested in understanding some of what the Grave Guard can do. But I ran these numbers just as an illustration, so I'm going to go over them right now. So the Grave Guard, and I'm running a 20 block. I'm not adding in the extra attack for the leader, so it's just basically 20 attacks base. And their base profile, and this is with great weapons. I always like to look at the 4+ save area. I feel that that's a pretty good barometer for most all comers. So that's what I like to look at. But also in this age of 2+ save craziness, where every hero's got a 2+ save, you also have to pay a lot of attention to that. And you want to hit about a 15 wound mark on that, if that's sort of what your key of taking out is. So you need to have something in your army that can take out a 2+ save hero, a vampire, zombie dragon, Archaeon, all sorts of heroes from Soulblight. There's just so many things in the game right now that has high armor saves, and you've got to have some way to deal with that if you're going conventional damage or if you're going to mortal wounds, whatever. So we're looking at the base at 22, 13 and 22. Now, if you give them an all-out attack, that's going to go up to 27 and 16. So that's pretty solid. That's taking out pretty good units right there. You're taking out 20 blocks of stuff, and remember, you should be getting all 20 of these guys in if you get a pretty decent charge. All All right, so let's go down to the first set of buffs, which is the extra attacks, which can be found a lot of different ways in the Soulblight book. The most, I guess, I say for sure way is with the Vampire Lord, because they just have it as their base command ability. However, obviously, if the unit that you're trying to buff has been roared or something, they won't be able to receive that. However, this is probably the way to easily get it. So with an extra attack, 33 and 20, and that's a beautiful mark at that 2+ save. It's just really, really good. All right, after the extra attack, you have a +1 to wound. I'm using this predominantly in this list from Strength of the Pack, which is the Vicros ability. There are a couple other ways to get the +1 to wound in the Soulblight book, but that's the way I'm getting it for right now. So just from that, you're going to get 28 and 16. So another solid number right there. This is taking out big monsters pretty reasonable every time, and 30 wounds at a 4, almost 30 wounds. I mean, you're taking out big units of things. So let's look at the next one, Exploding Sixes for Under a Killing Moon, which is Belladamma's spell. And yeah, 27, it's right in line with that, no big deal. 16, so these are also solid numbers. That's Exploding Sixes, that's super good. And remember, that's going to stack with a lot of other things, because Exploding Sixes is not any other way to find it in Soulblight book, I don't think. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. All right, so let's run the numbers on an extra attack plus Exploding Sixes. So now we're up to 25 wounds at a 2+ and 41 wounds at a 4+ save. I think if you're looking at 40 wounds, with something with a 4+ save, most of the time that's going to be sort of your Stormcast, your beefier 2-wound models that are coming in at 20 and 20 models per 2 wounds each. So right there, you're taking out units, and that's a lot of times, a quarter or at least an eighth of the enemy's army right there in one attack. All right, so +1 to wound, just from all-out attack, plus Exploding Sixes. We're getting 35 and 20. Another really good. That's helping out that total for the 2+. And we have the +1 to wound, Exploding Sixes, and extra attack. At a 2+ save, they're doing 30 wounds. That's pretty good on. You're going to take out Archaon. I mean, Archaon's 20 wounds, but you get those buffs off, you should be dropping them, because rolls are going to fluctuate. Obviously, these are just averages. But there's a pretty good opportunity that you're going to take them out right there. You're doing 50 wounds at a 4+. You're doing 75 at a 6+. So if somebody had a 75 wound unit, you just deleted it. So here's if you get the extra attack and the +1 to wound. 24 and 42, another, you're hitting that 40 mark and that 20 mark, and that's always showing you like, oh my goodness, that's a ton of damage. And those are sort of the numbers that you're running with Graveguard. You have to keep that in mind. Like, as an opponent, Graveguard are probably one of the most consistent, highest damage dealing units in the Soulblight book. I know we got zombie dragons, we've got Nagash with magic missiles, you've got blood knights, you've got all these things, but for my money, Graveguard with great weapons are going to put out the most damage and most consistent damage that we have in the book. And I find that this is the easiest way to buff that damage, because there's summonable keywords. There's a ton of things in the book that's going to allow you to affect that summonable profile. And if we just go back and look at their base damage, I mean, their base damage for a 280 point unit is not bad at all, and any little bonus that you can give them makes them really exceptional. So that was sort of my theory of crafting a list that was based around 2 blocks of Graveguard. Well, let's see how that works out for me in game 1.
All right, so I'm here today with Andrew. He's the ringer, but his Stormcast army, you know, is I don't know what to do. I haven't played the new Stormcast yet.
Me either.
So we're gonna figure this out. We're playing Survival of the Fittest. Andrew has said that he's taken the first turn. I really don't know what I'm doing with this army yet, so we're just gonna. It's a good game to test it out.
Do you wanna say what our predators are?
Oh yeah, we got predators. Go ahead.
Concussor unit predators, bows predators, and protectors are predators for me.
And my 2 blocks are Grey Guard, and my giant are the predators over here. And yeah, I haven't actually played this mission, so this is gonna be interesting. Going into Stormcast turn 1.
One for 2, 1 for more, and run, so 5.
So Andrew ended up with 5. He moved the chariot up. Hero phase, he translocated the protectors over to that point over there. Got some buffs up. He used his the hero phase shooting for your adjudicators. What's that called?
Thunder, I don't know, whatever.
Well, it's whatever.
It didn't work, so it doesn't suit me now.
Yeah, and he ended up doing only 2 wounds to the giant. And then in his other shooting phase, he did a little bit better, so he ended up doing 7 wounds to the giant with the adjudicators. So the giant's got 9 wounds, and that's pretty much the only wounding that went on. We're going into my turn 2, and seeing if the giant can eat somebody or something. I don't know. So not the best turn. Not bad. I mean, whatever. Zombies came over here and they did a. Well, let's go back to hero phase. I got Dance Macabre here. I got Killing Moon off. I got Pinions and a Mystic Shield. But really, I was out of range for everything. Everybody sort of shuffled up, and these guys ended up taking, you know, their 6-inch pile-in charge. I did 1 wound to his 6 return wounds. The Gravelord here only had a Mystic Shield, and they actually made that a 10-inch charge over there, but they didn't have any buffs on them, and they were been out of bubbles, so I sort of said, no, we're not doing it. Big zombie giant here killed 9, yeah, and put 9.5 on that.
9.5, yeah.
So he
almost did it.
Almost did it, and I only took 1 point this turn, so not an awesome turn.
So it'll be 3 total.
Yeah, I only did 3 total points, so this is a roll-off for priority going into 2.
Ooh.
Oh, yep, and guess I gotta take that.
Yeah, I guess we should probably take that.
That was the.
So I got 3.
So my turn was pretty good. Can't complain.
4, so 7. You're at 10 total.
This is what the map's looking like. I sort of pushed. We got Killing Moon off. We got Pinions off. We got Fading Vigor on the unit of Liberators that's not there anymore. And basically, he auto unbound Dance Macabre.
Yeah,
And we sort of pushed everybody. The zombies are barely holding over here. I did maintain control of that. I failed a long charge with the wolves. We summoned in our other dogs to support Bella. This unit of Graveguard failed a long charge. Well, long, it was only like 8 or something, but they would have been in range with the Vampire's Bubble, but just failed it. I did smash the, I took for my battle tactic, kill a battle line. There was that 1 Judicator left, and he dropped a rock on his head, and so he was able to charge, and I ended up killing your, what is?
Vandus Hammerhand.
Vandus Hammerhand, but and he's got 19 wounds on him right now. The Graveguard in the center ate the Liberators and put a wound on his caster, and this is what we're sitting up going into Stormcast turn 3. Turn 2.
Turn 2. I do get a command point because he's my general.
And what's the points totals right now?
10 to 5 because I haven't gone yet. You got 7 on that turn.
Awesome.
Battle tactic. That should be it.
So it's a pretty good turn, all in all, for
tied.
Andrew. He got 5 points to be tied up. He killed the zombies off over here. He's only got 1 wound left there. Ran out of combat. He teleported over here and he killed the zombies. His battle tactic was to take this point. Almost took that point over there by accident when I piled in with the zombies. Giant's got 31 wounds on him.
Yeah.
He really.
I want this turn, Jay.
Yeah.
I want this turn.
So we got a roll off right now.
Yay!
1 to 6, so he's taking the turn.
Take the turn. All right, let's see.
All right, really good turn for Andrew here. He wiped out the Graveguard in the middle. He took out the zombies right there. He killed the giant. So you ended up with 7 total points this turn. How many did you get?
7.
7. I burnt this point over here. I was iffy on trying to do that. I probably, if I'd had thought, we're running short on time, so I probably like should have left it. That made his decision making a lot different. But now it's my turn, so I need to take both the points and kill those guys in the middle. That would be the thing. All right. Oh, at the end of the turn, let me see. I killed 1 unit.
This turn you didn't kill any.
Yeah.
You didn't kill. Oh, you killed 1 unit. Yeah, 4 up.
And 6. Oh, we're bringing some Graveguard back.
All right. 5. You killed a predator with a predator. 6. I killed a predator with a predator, so I'll get 1 as well.
Yeah.
Oh, the game does look pretty good. Yeah,
Right? 6.
yeah, I haven't played since 4.
Control 1, control 2, control more.
5 was great.
Battle tactic, kill a predator with a predator.
Yeah, that was fun. I like it. It's also
Yeah,
really
so I think Andrew, we're tabulating it up. I had a pretty good turn. I think he might end up winning by points.
So if we call it here, how do you want to do? Do you want to do it where we talk out turn 4?
Yeah,
Or,
it's how much time, it's up to you. So we finished up this turn, I brought some zombies back in. I basically killed everything except those 2 back there and those 3 in the middle. I took the center point as my battle tactic, and that's what we're sitting at.
So we'll roll off and talk out turn 4.
Yep,
I got a 1.
I got a 3, so I'm going to take it and I'm going to get points.
You'll get a lot.
And we're going to talk about it more than likely. I think that might do it.
I think that'll give it to you.
But even if it didn't, I think that, yeah. All right, good game, Andrew.
Yeah.
I'm learning how slow my army is.
Well, I'm slowing with not.
Just sort of picking up the board here. We talked about that last turn. I won the priority on that, so ended up getting the win. It was close. It was way closer than I actually thought. I mean, if you look at the amount of units, I was feeling really good amount of models and wounds on the board, and then it just sort of started dropping. I am still getting used to a Soulblight list. Haven't played them in a while, so you know it's just a little something different. But I tell you what, I did get to bring back 2 different units or half units on at the end of Battle Shock, so that was something interesting to recycle that I haven't got to do in a while. It's fun, enjoying it, figuring it out. So moving on to game 2.
All right, so fun game with Andrew. I haven't actually played him in a good while. If you know the Houston scene, Andrew usually runs one of our locals here at Atomic Games. He also runs Star Wars Legion. He's been on the channel a few times talking Legion. So just known in the community, really strong player. In fact, at Hammerfest, I believe he had the top Seraphon army. If you want to see more insight about his army, check out Caleb Hastings' YouTube channel. He does all the Seraphon stuff, and I think he broke down all those lists and the placings of them. But Andrew is a super good player. He's always a hard player to deal with because he knows what he's doing. So I was happy. I think the game was a little bit closer than I expected. There was a couple points I thought I was just going to roll, but I was seeing that this army is slow. And I mean, you're saying, well, you should know it's slow. I say, yeah, I know it's slow, but it's just how everything needs to move together. You got to keep bubbles. It is a little bit slower than I'm used to. So you know that was a little challenge. I did think I made a tactical error by when I didn't get the priority turn 3 and I burnt that point on the side. I should have probably kept it there because that would have forced him to probably keep his chariot out there. It would have given me a little bit more flexibility with how I was playing. It would have made his decision-making processes a little bit different. But all in all, it was interesting. I got buffs up when I needed them. The Graveguard were hitting hard. The Giant, which we really haven't talked about too much in depth, the Giant did a pretty good job. I mean, he tanked all those shots, which was the worry that I was going to get shot off the board early. But he tanked all the shots really well, and he went in there and really, really smashed those Judicators. You can't complain when he was doing enough wounds between his impact hits and all his other stuff. Got him down like to 19 and a half models were killed, so that's pretty solid showing by him. And then he put a couple wounds on the other guys too, but they were able to bring him down, and he just soaked up so much damage. That was one of the reasons I was taking him. Is just it is a giant distracting piece, and people go, oh, I need to shoot that giant and deal with it. Okay, go do it, and then the rest of the army just doesn't get hurt yet. Is that a good tactic or a bad tactic? I don't know. That's why we're trying all this out. So right now we're going into game number 2.
All right, game 2, playing Mr. Ratley here. Seen him on the channel before. He has got Cruel Boys, and it's pretty nasty army. We're playing Tooth and Nail, which doesn't do me any favors because I can't put anything in the grave. I don't know if I would, but I probably couldn't. Probably wouldn't, who knows. But it definitely doesn't help not having that option. We're lined up here, and yeah, who's taking first turn?
Well, I have to teleport somebody first.
So he's teleporting something first, but he will take first turn. Who would have thought? I was really hoping he'd give it to me for some reason, but there we go. Getting shot here in a second. So, in Mr. Ratley's turn, can you tell us what you did, sir?
We poked a few shots into the zombies, just trying to clear some chaff. I tried to fire a poison shot into the necromancer back there, did 8 damage, and he shrugged all of it except for 1. So we got some wolf's dead. Before we decided who was going first, I redeployed a crossbow into the back corner there. I tried to shoot his giant. I failed one that went through, did 12 damage.
Yeah.
So that was a nice chunk. And now we're sitting here waiting to see what he can get to me.
Yeah, but how many points you get for the turn?
We got 5 for the turn.
And your battle tactic was to do 10 wounds and not to take 10 wounds from their special sneaky Cruel Boy stuff.
Cruel Boys tactic, yeah.
All right, so he almost killed them. I spent a CP to keep them around just because I want to try to get that point. And yeah, and we'll see if we can do some damage this turn. So pretty much wrapping up my turn, pretty much what happened is because he has the Vulture and basically can deny my spells and do mortal wounds to me, I didn't cast anything this turn because I pretty much wasn't guaranteed to get into combat anyway. So I sort of ran up from his dirty tricks. He had these 2 objectives out here. So basically, really close to wiping that unit. My battle tactic was aggressive expansion was to take those 2 units. So I still got to do battle shock on them guys. I have to calculate that up because I don't think they're going to fail. I don't think they can die to a man, but we still need to look at that.
It failed. I killed 6.
All right, let me come back and look at this. All right, sorry. Yeah, I rolled and I was fine with battle shock on the guys over here. Took the dire wolves to try to take this down. He has 1 wound left. Brought everybody up. Popped out the other moves. Yeah, and the giant made the charge in. He has 29 wounds put on him from 1 round of shooting and 1 round of Overwatch. And he killed those 2 units, and we took that point. But the giant is definitely hurting. And now we're going into big time. Well, how many points? Big time roll offs. 2. Come on. 3. Yep, I got to take it because I set up for the double turn. If you notice how the Graveguarder just pushed the middle. If he won that roll, it'd be a whole different game. I think now we're pushing in and trying to do the business.
Mine's the battle shock thing. It doesn't matter, it's the end of the round.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. All right, so my turn didn't go as good as I would have liked. Casted minimal spells, getting Mystic Shield on these guys, which I didn't use because I forgot to push that card up, but I don't think it mattered too much. I had a big decision because I had a Graveguard go here, there, and my Mega made the combat over there, and the decision, the Mega only had 5 wounds, so it was like, go with him and try to kill the bird, or go up here, and it was a very hard decision. I had to go, and so I ended up going with the Mega, and he only put 5 wounds on the Vulture. And after Timber and everything was done, and smashes and impact hits and everything, the Vulture has 1 wound left. There's 2 Scare Boys or whatever they're called, and yeah, I'm not in a great position. I was hoping to kill a little bit more, than what I did. So I did kill this back here, so that's gone. So we're moving into Jack's turn 2. I ended up scoring 2 for my battle tactic, 1 for, yeah, I ended up scoring 5 points this turn. And he scored 1 for killing the giant. So moving into Jack's turn
2. Don't have that. So I scored 2, 3, 4.
All right, so not a very good turn. It was a very quick turn. Jack's tactical objective was to take this point. He did. He killed the bats off the back objective. He did kill this. Both blocks of Grave Guard are dead, and I was not able to kill anything, so I did not bring anything back. Got 10 wounds left on the Sludge Raker. This pack of dire wolves is actually still alive back here, but they're way out of the situation. So it's looking pretty horrible for me right now. We're going to go to a roll-off because I sort of need this.
6.
Yep, 6 to 1. There he goes. So my big double turn last turn didn't really do as much as it needed to do. All right, going into turn 3 for them. Yeah, excuse all the mess back here of the dead bodies. He got his tactical objective to take at this point with those guys. He killed the last zombie. He wiped the zombie unit here with the muck raker. Miasma, whatever, is up on these guys. And yeah, the wolves are still alive back here. They might do something at some point in this game. So we're going to try to kill stuff. I don't know what my tactical objective is going to be, but we need to do it. All right. Oh, and I got to roll to see if I bring another unit back. I did kill 1 unit, and I'm bringing some guys back, so we'll put those out. So I did win. I did kill the battle line here. It was my tactical objective. These guys, he redeployed, so they failed a huge 9-inch charge. But I did kill his last of his scare boys or whatever they're called. So now we're going into, we'll roll off, but then I'll pull these guys out.
Pull guys out first, because it could depend. Like,
yeah, so I'm going to pull some guys out and we'll figure out what we're doing. I brought out the Grave Guards here. Lost the roll off for what are we on, turn 4, going into 4. So he won that. It would have been nice to win that. That would have been set me up pretty good. But it's his turn, so see what he does. All right, Jack's turn. He shot like 5 off over here. Killed my vampire. Destroyed the Grave Guard, which was his battle tactic. Going into my turn. Yeah. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. We'll see. Well, not the greatest. I scored 1. Okay, but I do get a roll, so maybe on a 4-up because I killed 1 unit, right? Ooh, I might take another point. Let's see. Oh yes, zombies are coming out somewhere. Probably over there to try to take that point from you. You should be able to, because maybe we'll look at ranges, see if I can get out somewhere and take a point and get some extras. All right, we're just finishing up here. Jack, we talked at turn 5. I won the roll, but he would have won, I think, by 2 points anyway. Standings wise, Jack conceded because he's going to work, but he won the game, so that is a win for him, hands down. I think it ended up winning by 2 or 3 as we talked it all out, but super close game. I think it went back and forth. Yeah, constantly. Like, I got the turn 2 double and I said he's dead, and then it didn't work out. Then he got, I think, a turn 3 double, and then I said I'm dead, and it just kept grinding on. But, so Cruel Boys are definitely interesting to play against.
Really fun game against Mr. Radley. It was a shame that he had to run off. I would have liked to seen his matchup on that next game against our next opponent, who he would have more than likely played because we were looking at points. He's also reps the channel a lot, so I really want to give a shout out to him and say thanks. He's a super great guy, super fun to play against. I train against him a lot with a lot of my lists because he's the type of guy that'll bring a list. He can bring something like, hey, I want to play Giants, or hey, bring this Chaos, or bring this, whatever he's got, he'll bring it. He'll construct a list to play against you, like, hey, I want to try out this. And, you know, if we do 2 turns and it looks horrible, we'll just reset and give it another go. And he's just a really fun guy to play against, really good opponent. And he plays a lot of games in the community over here. He's always on the Discord looking for games and playing guys and getting better. As far as his list goes, I was really scared because he has those, and I'm gonna mess up some of the names on some of these, the big bolt throwers. they were so scary to have just a single giant. He really has them because of the giant meta right now that's out there, and they're going to minimum flat do 12 damage per shot, pretty much. If you fail your armor save and this and that, so my giant really got worked by them. If he didn't have them, or if I got lucky with an armor save, the game's dynamics would have been a little bit different, I think, because my giant wouldn't have died almost, by turn 2. He should have lived. That would have also made my calculations when I got the double turn a lot different, because I didn't really go into too much detail during the recap, but at my turn 2 double turn, not only did I had my 2 full units of Grave Guard that hit him flush in his line. I also had my giant hit his vulture in the back. So I knew he was going to, or he told me he had the ability to wah and like select several units to fight at once. So I was getting one swing, and I pretty much knew that whatever didn't swing was probably going to die. Now, looking back, it would have probably been the smarter play to just let the giant die and really hit his muckraker, and that would have been the combat that would end and take his muckraker out, because I'm pretty sure that the Grave Guard would have killed his muckraker and probably a big chunk of his scare boys too. His muckraker really won him the game in many respects, because they're starting at turn 3. That guy just went through and just was deleting units and jumping on things and doing things. And if he didn't have that, it would have been interesting how that would have worked. I count that as a loss personally, because I did lose by a couple points. And there was, if we'd had a few more minutes, there was some talking out to do to maybe catch up. But I honestly think that it was pretty much over. Cruel Boys are really, really, I would call them a glass cannon with a lot of tricks. So if you're interested in playing them, or you haven't played against them, make sure you have a good discussion with your opponent over what his sneaky tricks are, what he can do, and have a good firm understanding, because they have a lot of little abilities that if your opponent isn't friendly like Jack was and was telling me, hey, this is what I can do, watch out for this, think about this, there's a lot of gotchas in that army. So make sure, if you're playing the Cruel Boys, that you're having a dialogue with your opponent and making sure you understand what his capabilities are. Don't just rush headlong in and think, oh, I'll do this, because they have a lot of little things that you will go, oh, that's surprising, especially with the book being so new. How did my army perform there? I was really honestly playing for the double turn. I knew from the setup, because I couldn't put anything in the grave, that I had to get the double turn, and if not, it would have been really a lot more uglier than it was. But seeing how my double turn was kind of a flop anyway, I mean, I did kill most of his scare boys, but other than that, I didn't really do much in my double turn. So that would have been, maybe if he'd have won it, I still think it would have turned out in my favor. But just being how slow and methodical my army is, he could have actually deployed a little bit further back, and maybe even gave me and I wouldn't even got to him until turn 3. So seeing right now how just slow the army is and how methodical it marches. Now, if I can get those Grave Guard to touch something, they kill whatever they touch. The problem is they're not very tanky, so you have to keep your screens up. They're very slow, so you have to march them forward. So there's a huge mechanic you have to play with that. All right, that being said, we're moving on to game number 3. Now, technically by standings, I've won 2, so I'm like around 4th place. But in my heart, I've only won 1 today. So we're moving into game 3, and we'll see how that goes.
All right, so I'm playing Mr. Chris over here, and we're in game 3. We're playing Savage Games, Soulblight versus Soulblight. If you've seen the channel, you know that he does a lot of Soulblight stuff. Nice army, did pretty good Hammerfest. What'd you get? What'd you make third?
Third overall.
Yeah. So he's giving me first turn here. The only thing I've got in the grave are the bats, and I'm sort of out. He's a lot faster than me. His army's really fast, so it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I've got first turn. I really thought about putting stuff in the graves. That would have been a really nice tactic, just to pop all my stuff up, but did not do that, so we're going to have to do some running. Alright guys, so he gave me the turn, and basically I took Aggressive Expansion to take the 2 middle points. I cast Killing Moon, Mystic Shield, Dance Macabre, Pinions. I got all the spells off, so I'm pretty buffed up. The one big thing that I should have done and made a huge mistake is I went to run these Graveguard and I rolled a 1 and it wasn't enough, so I should have auto-ran them. Therefore, I had to pop my bats from the grave right there to go ahead and make sure I got that battle tactic. Now, I could have also ran the wolves. I had other ways to do it, but I just had to pull them out. The other wolves come out of the grave over here, and this is where we're setting, and now it's time for him. Chris has got a lot of stuff in the grave. He's got a unit of Grave Guard in the grave, he's got a zombie unit in the grave, and he's got 5 Blood Knights and outflank. So going into his turn 1, which I'm sure he's going to hope turns into a double turn for him. Alright, Chris charged in with the dire wolves over here and did kill 1 bat, and I did 1 wound back. And then he did Ferocious Advance with his 3 heroes. He was trying to turn his, and this is Belladama, the middle. He has a, it's pretty beautifully painted army, and he tried to get the monster, turn into a monster metamorphosis, and failed that. So he didn't get the extra point, but he did get the normal 2 points for doing that. He popped in the Graveguard back here in the corner.
Not Graveguards, Blood Knights.
Blood Knights, and that's pretty much it. He scored a total of 7 points, so we're tied going into this roll. 4 to 5. He's going to take it, I'm sure. So we'll see.
I don't know if this is the right call.
Let him think it over.
But I'm going to give it to you.
Not a horrible turn for me. Could have been a little bit better with a giant, but basically I've got Killing Moon out, Van Hels on this unit over here. Mystic shielded the giant. I stepped over the zombies to engage the Blood Knights, but I split my attacks because I saw Belladama was in reach. But that -1 to wound really got me, and so I only did like 1 wound to her or something, and then killed 1 knight. So they did 5 wounds in return to my giant, not the best. Killed a couple dogs in the center with a 6-inch pile-in, and I deleted that unit of wolves with the Graveguard. Took that point, which was my tactical objective. Going into Chris's turn 2, and oh yeah, I retreated the bats out. Just a lot of little movement around. So we will see what happens.
You're at 14.
So Chris's turn, I finally soured the giant, and the Mystic Shield was still on him because I was expecting him to sit in combat with somebody, but he retreated out of combat with everyone. He brought all the Blood Knights around. His battle tactic was to take this point, but between some really big misses, because Chris rolled a lot of 1s and 2s, and a little bit of finagling and moving and piling in and getting away from him, the zombies were able to stay alive and keep the point, so he didn't get his battle tactic. Prince Fordray charged in the middle and killed all them, and we're rolling for the roll-off. 5. I rolled a 5. All right, so
Corvette.
Yep. There it is. So now it's going to be really ugly for me, because if I would have got the turn, I think I would be in a good spot. With him getting it, it's going to be a lot of stuff missing off the board. But I do have a unit to roll for before we go any further. And I rolled that 5. That should have been my 5 roll to bring him out. But here we go. So you are taking the turn, right?
I'm taking the turn, so what do you want to burn?
All right. Well, wrapping up the turn here, he brought out a unit of wolves. Pretty much just wrecked me with that double turn. Killed the Necromancer, the Graveguard. The zombies over there are dead. There's 3 dire wolves here. He actually took my back point and killed the Necromancer. Yeah, like I said, I sort of messed up. I keep trying to target the wrong things with my zombie giant. I should have targeted his knights. I targeted his Vangorian Lord. Looking at that juicy, only 10 wounds. Only did what, like 3? 4?
No, you've done 4.
Okay, I've done 4 wounds to him. He's fixing to heal back up. Belladama's down to like 2 wounds, fixing to heal back up.
Yeah.
So, bottom line was, it was just a very horrible turn for me, and I didn't get anything back. We're going into my turn 3 after Chris heal some stuff from killing some stuff. So it's looking pretty bleak over here. We'll see what I can do.
All right.
All right, we wrapped up the turn. Basically, I was just sort of talking about our turn. We're running out of time and see if it was worth doing, and it really wasn't. We came down to said, hey, if I can kill the giant, I can kill his Blood Knights over here with the giant. And the Blood Knight proceeded to do like maybe 3. We didn't even roll. It was like I did maybe 3 wounds to it. So big whiffs over there, and we just sort of wrapped it up, and that was it because I'm definitely losing. But I did want to see who would win going into turn 4. I rolled a 3, and he rolled a 6, so he would have took that turn going into turn 4 anyway, and it would have just been over. Everything else would have been destroyed. So.
Good game.
Good game, Chris. Yeah, man. Like
Very good.
super enjoyable as always. And I will sure I'll play this list again soon.
All right, so that was my toughest loss of the tournament. It was it would have been, if we went to time, it would have been a thorough tabling. One thing about Chris, he's been on the channel. If you've watched about a lot of our Soulblight content, he has been on a lot of those videos. Also, if you check out, and this is just a shout out for him, if you check out the Best Coast Pairings rankings right now for North America, I know he is number 1 Soulblight in the Southwest, but I think he is actually number 1 or number 2 in America at the time of recording. So I was playing technically one of the best Soulblight players in North America. His list hits hard. It's got a lot of tools. It's fast. And after playing it, I really learned, like, okay, I needed to add more speed to what I was doing. Really, that, if he wouldn't have got the double turn, if the turn sequence would have went okay, I think I would have been in a pretty good spot. I honestly believe the Grade Guard would probably have killed Prince Vordre, the zombie giant. I hope I would have been smart and targeted a unit of those Blood Knights, and then that would have just shifted the whole entire dynamic. Of course, we can say that about like almost every game we play. These double turns, they go back and forth, and they could win or lose you a game. But this one was a super devastating turn that he put on me. I will say that the biggest error that I made, I think, in this game was my target acquisition with the giant. I tried to keep splitting attacks. His Vangorian Lord had a -1 rend and a -1 to wound bubble around him. One's at 3 inches, one at 6 inches. So when I went in with my giant, I should have been more cognizant of that and just really tried to work around that, because that hampered a ton of his damage output. Really coming in and doing like 2-3 wounds to Volga and then like killing 1 Blood Knight with that all that giant's attacks, that's not sufficient. In theory, I should have wiped that unit of Blood Knights. And then, to make matters worse, later on in my next turn, I went and targeted the Vangorian Lord. Now, of course, I could have rolled super good. He could have rolled bad. I could have wiped him in 1 turn of combat, but I ended up only putting like 4 wounds on him with the giant. Just bad usage. And then finally, and just speaking of the giant still, in the final turn when we just sort of talked it through, I decided, hey, if I could do a battle tactic of, hey, kill a battle line with my giant, then that would keep the points kind of floating. And I tried to take out his remaining 4 Blood Knights and killed like 1 again. It was just, those debuffs on the giants really hurt so bad. And I know that too, because I played giants with Nagash in the Dallas tournament, and those negatives to wound are huge. So just keep that in mind. If you're going up against a Vangorian Lord, you're going to be minus that rend. It's going to negate 1 of your rend. There's a lot of ways in the Soulblight book to stack those buffs to hit, to wound, and that's what really keeps your big monsters alive in Soulblight. Other than that, I really did see that still, once again, just slow. And I know, you can still gripe at me and say, well, you knew that coming in. Your army's pretty slow. But it was a little bit slower than I thought, and it kept me out of position a few times. So that was where I was sitting, and playing a really good Soulblight player like Chris and seeing his type of army, because I haven't actually played his current iteration of the list, the one that he took to Hammerfest and made 3rd place. I played some of his earlier iterations with Tzeentch and different armies too. So just the speed, his speed versus my speed. He had more staying power than me. We hit about the same, but he had a lot more debuffs than I did. So at the end of the day, even if I would have got that turn, there's still no guarantee that I would have done anything. He could have still ended up rolling me. Just after playing that game, it just really made me see, okay, I'm slow. I need a little bit more speed in this list. And continuing on that note, so I have played the tournament at this point. I did sort of tweak and play with this list, and I did come to the conclusion, you know what? I have all these ultimate buffs on the Graveguard, and the two biggest hindrances that I'm finding with running them is, number one, they're slow. To get them to combat, it takes 1 or 2 turns unless the enemy comes and gets in your face. The next thing is they're not super survivable. If anybody puts any concentrated fire on them, they're going to melt. And finally, like, I have all these extra buffs and I can put out 40 and 50 and 60 wounds with a block of 20, but they're just going to delete a unit. Like, they deleted the wolves like nothing. And it's true. Everything that they touch, they delete. But I'm running 2 blocks of them, and I just don't have the speed to cover the board. And if you're playing an opponent that's way more maneuverable, or God forbid, fast and shooty, this army is just going to get picked apart. There's no reason for them to ever engage. So that's sort of my findings from the list. So let me bring up the list, and I'll break down everything that I saw, the changes that I made, and my feelings just from these 3 games on the different units and how that broke down right now. All right, how did I like the Vikros Dynasty? Really liked it. I think that was super useful. All of my vampires re-rolling their spells. Beautiful. The +1 wound bubbles, especially for the Graveguard, it's just beautiful. I probably once maybe got the zombies into it that it actually was beneficial, but if you're running Graveguard or you want or just mass skeletons, I think that it's really, really good to look at. Grand strategy, prize sorcery was fine for this, especially with taking the wolves to shrug the wounds to Belladama, because if I didn't do that, I was really at a loss for how I was going to keep my grand strategy, because a good opponent could have picked off my 3 casters pretty easy. But Belladama's pretty tanky with those wolves around, and to be honest, she's going to sit back a little bit, and she's not a high priority a lot of times for the enemy, just because they're dealing with Graveguards and Giants and other things in their face. All right, the Necromancer with Arcane Tome. Love the Arcane Tome. That allowed me to get Van Hels off every turn, and when I was in range to give the Fading Vigor, get that off too. So that was really, really good. I have played around with taking the Necromancer out because it's 125 points, which is not a ton. I mean, the Necromancer's costed very beautifully. But I keep going back to, very rarely did I need that spell. I don't even know if during the course of the games that I actually got it on a unit and got to activate twice, because it was the number one dispel. Everybody, my Stormcast game, he auto unbinded it. And most of the time, if the Graveguard have any buff, they're just murdering anything they touch. So there's not going to be a second activation. Where it would really come in is with the zombies activating to get 2 6-inch pylons. But all in all, I'm taking it for that. And in Vikros, he doesn't get a reroll. I like the Necromancer a lot more in Legion, where he gets the Morbeck's Claw. So I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm not saying don't run Necromancers, because I really love them. I'm just thinking, for me to make some tweaks to this list, I have pulled him out. Vampire Lord. I like the Vampire Lord. Did what he needed to do. He's there to give the extra attack to the Graveguard. And to be quite honest, that's between that and the Vikros Dynasty, that's kind of all the buffs you need. If for some reason he's not there, Belladama putting the extra on there is also really good. So I'm leaving the Vampire Lord in. I really like him. Plus, he's got a little speed when you get pinions on him. It's a little bit more tanky. He gets he gets the reroll casting. So if you need to throw up a Mystic Shield, if that's really important, or you need the pinions, you've got to reroll for that. Belladama. So Belladama's only 200 points. Super great model for 200 points. Running her in this list, I almost feel that you have to take Kin of the Wolf to give her extra wounds, or you have to take a unit of Dire Wolves to babysit her. So her points are actually a little higher than what they are. They're like 250 or 300. Her spells were very good. The exploding sixes were fine. That's just another way to buff your grave guard or your zombies. And a Lycan Curse, I got off a few times and then did pop out a wolf here or there. Especially, I think, in game 2 with the Cruel Boys, I was able to do that. I was able to do that in game 1 also. So that was very beneficial. I like her for her casting. She's +1 to cast, and in Vicros, she's re-rolling those casts. I put Soul Pike on her, and I never actually cast that the whole tournament. In game 2 against the Cruel Boys, I wish I did against that Muckraker or whatever it's called, because he charged like 3 times, it seemed like, and that would have probably finished him off if I got that spell. So I'm still liking to keep Soul Pike on her. If not, I would put Pinions just to give her some more movement to get out of trouble. I'm still debating. Right now, I'm leaving her in. However, I do have a couple of tweaks that I did take her out and play around with that. The Giant. So the Giant in game 1 made his points. The Giant in game 2 absorbed his points worth of damage. And then in the game 3, he really, and part of it was me, just bad generalship. He didn't make his points. He really didn't do anything. So it's a mixed bag. I totally think that it's interesting to have a Giant in a Soulblight. It is a quarter of your list, so it is a huge investment because, look, you could put a Zombie Dragon in. You could put 2 Vangorian Lords. You can put, like 2 units of Blood Knights plus some, bats or whatever. There's so many things that you could take the place of that, but I like the concept. That's one of the things I'm rolling with. I just like the concept of a giant, a giant mega in the list. It brings a few things that we're not getting in other places. The bad thing is it doesn't synergize well. And this list doesn't really need it, but when you look through the book, there's a lot of things that want to synergize with keyword lineage, that lineage keyword, and he doesn't get any of those benefits. But there are a few spells and there are a few things that just help him out. So I'm going to leave him in. I'm building the list around him currently, still at the time. That's what I'm keeping. Zombies, there's not much to say. They do what they do. They take up space. They screen. The 6-inch pile-in is always nice. I did like in that last game where I sort of put them and use them as a shield for my giant. So I obviously, points wise, I like taking zombies. They do what they do. And if nothing else, you put them in the grave, let them pop out turn 1 or turn 2 in the opponent's backfield and say, hey, there's 20 wounds I got to go mess with. 2 units of Grave Guard. The Grave Guard themselves performed great. They did exactly what I thought they would do. When they touched something, that thing died. But 2 units are a quarter of my list. So I'm probably going to pull 1 unit out. I have played around with adding in a White King and making just 1 unit of 30, and that sort of equals out those points just because of it being a little bit more maneuverable. But I think at this time I'm going to take the 2nd unit out just because it's really just too slow, especially with the Mega in. If I had maybe taken out the Mega and put some Blood Knights or some more faster, a couple of Vangorian Lords, something that can go out and attack, having 2 units of Graveguard sit on your points, that's not bad. But at this point, I think I'm going to take them out. Dire Wolves, really liked them. They are fast. They're a battle line. They work great with Belladama. So if I keep her, I'm keeping the 10 Wolves. And Fellbats, and I know a lot of people out there don't like the Fellbats, and I think for 75 points, they're super good. They're fast. They can go in the grave. You can't resummon them because they're not. They don't come out of the. They if they die, they're gone. But you can bring them out of the grave. If you're playing Legion of Knights, you can outflank them. Just really having the move on them is really nice, and having a 75-point throwaway unit, something to screen, something at first game 1. I actually just put them in the about 12 inches behind my lines to stop any teleports from jumping in behind me. So they definitely have uses, and I like having them in there for their versatility. Battle Regiment, obviously, just to lower the drops. And Hunters of the Heartland, yeah, you need for this list. I had to have it on the Grave Guard because you want to get that extra attack from the vampire. So what would I put in if I took another Grave Guard out? Would I keep Hunters? I really want to keep Hunters on the Grave Guard. It just depends on how that list works out. But Hunters, if you have that Grave Guard unit with 20 or 30 and you're really building around like 1 to 2 of these powerful units you're trying to buff, I've seen a lot of people run 20 or 30 skeletons. I would put them in Hunters right now just because of the monstrous reactions. They take so much from you that it's worth the extra drops at times. So let me know if I'm wrong on that. Let me know what you think. But that being said, I think there is some play to this list. I don't see it being, me working around this mega and a unit of Grey Guards. I don't think I'm going to build a 4 or a 5 win tournament list. However, I got some tweaks that I would like to get up to a 3 win, go to a GT, and and depending on matchups, you can do well. So, with all that said, tell me what you liked about the list. Tell me what you would change. Give me ideas what I should be working towards. I've got 3 or 4 that I'm really messing around with right now. Just leave that in the comments. Let me know. And as always, thanks for watching, and y'all be good.